Welcome to the Love the Star podcast. I'm Bobby Belt, Dallas Cowboys insider for 105 through the Fan in Dallas, joined as always by former Super Bowl winning NFL scout Bryan. He is now the co-host of the G-Bag Nation, 2 to 7 p.m. Central, Monday through Friday on 105 through the Fan in Dallas. He is also the pre- and post-game co-host on the Dallas Cowboys radio network. Bryan Broaddus, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Robert. Excited as always to be with you. We're kind of getting into, we got OTA practices coming up this week that we can go watch. Yep. So looking forward to a Wednesday, Thursday. I know I can't hit the Wednesday one because of my radio show, but you damn better understand I'll be out there for Thursday watching. I'm interested to see where some of these cats, these rookies and undrafted guys, are going to line up with the veterans and see how far down the depth chart that maybe some of these rookies are. Are they a lot closer to the top, or are they playing them in that role of guys that are running with the 3s and the 4s right now?
Yeah, is Guyton going to step right out there at left tackle? Is Beebe going to step right in at center? Those are some of the questions that we'll have to take a look at here. And you know what I'll be doing it, Bryan? I will be doing it in a comfortable pair of Chill Boys underwear, because I want to remind you guys that we have our great partner, Chill Boys, who are doing a fantastic job helping to keep us on the air, help us to keep delivering content to you guys. So check them out over at chillboys.com and use the promo code STAR, and that gets you 15% off your order. So they're hooking you guys up as listeners who love the Star, and we appreciate them very much. Bryan, we were just sitting here kicking around stuff that we want to talk about before the show. We'll do some schedule release stuff next segment, as we kind of previewed it last time, but we have the schedule out now, kind of some takeaways from that. We'll obviously do the mailbag a little bit later, but this is also a free-flowing kind of open time period. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. We've got a bunch of just questions that are still there outstanding. And it's funny, some of the stuff that gets discussed or floated about. Like, I saw an article yesterday that was from ESPN, and it was talking about 14 best free agents left, and the best fits. And one of them was Michael Thomas. And under Michael Thomas, it said best fit Cowboys, and it said he can go compete with Jalen Tolbert for the third receiver. It's like, what a fall for Michael Thomas that's how he's talking about. But we got a bunch of different potpourri subjects we can touch on today.
Robert, I heard you talk about that one on the radio this morning. I was out doing my 3-mile walk with my Chill Boy socks on, by the way.
There you go.
Super comfortable. If you're into those kinds of things, comfortable socks mean a lot this time of year. And I heard you and Sean and you guys talking about this. I was interested, and you're right. What a fall for Michael Thomas. And this is all about injury here. This is all about injury here, because there was a time where Michael Thomas was one of the top receivers in the country. I mean, when you look at him, and say in the country, I'm sound like I'm talking about the draft, but one of the top receivers in the National Football League. Yeah. And, to me, if you're looking for fits, you know what? There are worse opportunities to take chances on out there than Michael Thomas. I would make that call. I know he might be a little bit of a kind of a crazy guy. You guys talked about it on your show today that maybe he's from that Ohio State group. Yeah. But he does have familiarity, and you rightly mentioned this with Ezekiel Elliott. There is a relationship there. And if you're hunting receivers, if you're interested in bringing in Zay Jones, and I can think of far worse guys, as I've said, than Michael Thomas of coming in and checking out maybe for a workout here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He is a guy who, at one point in time, there was discussion about, a lot of people felt like that is arguably the top receiver in the game. There was a time where people talked about him like that. He's been hit with injuries. He can be a little bit of a prickly chemistry fit at times for people.
I see why you use that word. I see how you use that word. Yeah,
he could be a little bit like that, but ultimately, those are you're going to find people with warts this time of year. If you're looking at an investment and taking a gamble, you're going to run into people who have those sorts of questions. But I think that's one that at least is worth checking out a little bit. Bryan, what's your Cowboys brain on right now as we enter OTAs and we kind of take a look at some of the different things facing the Cowboys as we stand on May 21st?
You know what? I want to ask you this question, Robert. And since you talked about free flowing, this is my first question to you for the day is.
Hit me.
What do you think about Kavontae Turpin and his role for the Dallas Cowboys? We're talking about receivers. And there's people that are kind of pushing, could he be the third receiver? Mm-hmm. And I know I talked about it yesterday on our show on 105.3 The Fan, the G-Bag Nation, of if Turpin's the third, him, Cooks, boy, that's a small lineup right there, right? Mm-hmm. So, but where do you see him in the big picture of things? Everybody likes to say, oh, new kickoff rules, Turpin, new this, new that. But he did show some ability as a receiver, almost averaging a little over 10 yards a catch, last season, couple of touchdowns. Where do you see Turpin fitting into all this wide receiver talk?
Yeah, there's a lot to like about Kavontae Turpin and what he can bring to the table, specifically when you're talking about the type of money that he makes and being a value buy for them, I guess. And so, to me, I look at Turpin and I see, and I hate pigeonholing guys like this for the most part, but I see gadget guy. And I know that. So
you're not as high on him as a possible third receiver. See him as, when you say gadget guy, you're talking 9-10 play guy a game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I look at Kavontae Turpin the same way I did the Tavon Austin role here in Dallas, which was one where he's, he can go out there and take some snaps to receiver, and he can even contribute from time to time. But, I mean, that's a smaller guy who, it's not just a smaller guy. It's a smaller guy who shows up on tape when the size limitations are there. It impacts him. And so, to me, I think you're right. When you have Cooks and Turpin, that's such a small receiver group. And I just have a lot of trouble seeing that being a consistent contributor for them. I'll tell you somebody who I think I'm interested in as a receiver.
You're going to tell me Jalen Brooks is what you're going to say.
Well, I mean, I like Jalen Brooks because I think he's tough, and I think that there was some stuff we saw last year at training camp. I'll be interested to see how he looks this year. But last year at training camp as a rookie, there was a little bit of nice, nuance to his route running, and he knew how to hand fight, and he had just these subtle little movements that would get him a little extra separation, and he had good hands, and I really liked Jalen Brooks from that perspective. But honestly, and it's the name that we just saw come out of the draft, but I am really interested to see how Ryan Flournoy fits into this football team. And
you worried about the school?
Not as much.
Learning curve.
I mean, you know what? He's going to be 25 in October. He's old.
I know.
He's an older receiver, but it's interesting. Right here, we've got listeners all over the country, not just here in Dallas, but we are based in Dallas, and we have interests in the Texas Rangers and the Dallas Stars and the Dallas Mavericks. And it's funny, if you look at those three teams and the success that they've had recently. Last year, Evan Carter was just a stud for them as a 20-year-old rookie who had
on the baseball team,
who had barely played 30 games for the Texas Rangers, and then was a big-time contributor in October. And then you take right now what the Mavericks and the Stars are doing. Logan Stankoven, young kid, comes up in the middle of the year, not affected by playoff hockey. Derek Lively with the Mavericks, not affected by playoff basketball. Young rookie stepping up, not shrinking in the moment.
Yeah, but Duke, right?
But well,
Lively's Duke. I mean, he's played big games. But he was
hurt a lot at Duke, and there's a jump from Duke. Jack Leiter, again, we're pulling over to baseball. Jack Leiter played big-time SEC baseball, and he can't stand up on the mound without freaking out. Yeah. And so here's what I was looking at as I was trying to consider this. I did this the other day as a topic on 105.3 The Fan. I was looking at it and saying, who do I think – where can the Cowboys find that in their rookie class? Who can I find the guy who he's not going to shrink if he's given an opportunity in a big moment? Who looks like – where do I see clues of it existing throughout their college career and find some of those things? And Flournoy was one that stood out to me because Flournoy, you're talking about a guy who spent 7 years in college. Bryan, he got to his initial – when he first got in college –
JUCO guy, right? He went JUCO to, but I mean, there's it's a long path. You're right about
his freshman year. was Leighton Vander Esch's rookie year. Leighton Vander Esch was drafted in the first round, had a rookie deal, signed 2 more contracts, and retired from professional football before Ryan Flournoy finished his college journey. And Flournoy, to me, spending 7 years essentially in college, 3 different programs, fighting. He redshirts his first year, then he gets hurt the next. Then the year after that's COVID, and his school's games get canceled. He's not able to play. Then throughout COVID, he had some, I read some articles talking about he had some family stuff going on, and he ultimately had to become academically eligible again and fight for that opportunity. Then he gets to the one school that gives him a Division I offer, Southeast Missouri, and when he's there, he impresses the first year. He's a captain there. Bruce Feldman puts him on the Fantasy Freaks list in 2023. Supposed to be his big breakout year, and then what happened? He breaks his hand in the middle of the season. And that opportunity to blow up is taken away from him a little bit, and he still was out there. Ryan Flournoy was out there during practices with a broken hand doing one-handed catching drills because he wanted to make sure that he was out there and he was still competing, and he did not want to lose that opportunity. And so I think all of that, and then Flournoy stepping up and performing well at the combine and performing well in front of NFL scouts throughout that process, that to me says mentally tough. And so I do wonder if, given that we feel like there's maybe been a lack of that at times for some of the guys in the Cowboys, I wonder if, in that group, Tolbert, Brooks, Turpin, Flournoy, does Flournoy, I'm not going to bet against the idea of Flournoy saying, I'm not losing this opportunity that I've worked 8 years for. Yeah. And I think it's such a crucial component of it in terms of the ability to make it at this level. And so to me, I just, when I was looking at those other teams around Dallas and saying, which of these rookies could be that, Flournoy was one who kind of stood out to me a little, as I think that guy might have the right mental makeup for it to step up and be a big-time player for them. And there's an opening there at that third receiver, and he tests well. He looks like an NFL receiver in terms of his athletic profile. And so when you mention Turpin there, I do kind of think Flournoy is at least interesting to me.
Gotcha. All right, before we go to our first break, Justin Rogers or Maris Leofau, who's going to be the bigger contributor on defense?
I think Leofau will eventually, I think Leofau is going to be the better football player.
Okay, this year, the biggest contributor this year.
Opportunity. If Rogers is obviously 7th rounder. If he comes in there and
he's the only one technique he got, really, right?
Yeah, if he comes in there though and he performs in a way that just they say, because obviously you could be, and I'm not saying he will be, you could be so bad that they go, doesn't really matter our needs. We got to find somebody else. This guy's got to go. Assuming he's not that, then Rodgers is going to get opportunity to do it. And I mean, I didn't think his tape, going back and watching it, I hadn't watched a lot of him before the draft. And so when I got a chance to, after they picked him, and go back and look at it, he was somebody who it's like, yeah, okay. I mean, 7th round, I'm cool with that. That looks like a guy I probably would have been comfortable taking in the 6th and contributing there. And so he's definitely a guy that I think can contribute right away. Leofau, it's just a question of, is he going to get the same opportunity? Because you've got Overshown Clark and Kendricks now. He may not be the one to get those sort of opportunities. But Leofau, you saw it on tape at Notre Dame. You know it's in his background. He's extremely versatile.
Yeah. Okay, one more real quick, because you answered that one with some actual pace and speed and not like I would answer it.
Okay. Like my Flournoy answer.
Yeah, exactly. We know what Chuma Edoga is. Okay, they're going to probably keep him around. Awesome Richards or Matt Waletzko? Who's going to be the better of those two?
I mean, we've got so many questions.
Because they're not going to give up on Edoga. Right?
I wouldn't anticipate it. I liked Waletzko's college tape more. And I
did you?
Yeah, I did. And I think Waletzko, if you want to talk about size and athletic profile and the ability to be kind of the modern NFL offensive lineman with the type of movement skills that he has, Waletzko to me is the better lottery ticket than Richards. I feel like I know what Richards is. Like Richards maybe
you haven't seen him play.
No, but I'm saying when I watch Waletzko's tape, when I see Waletzko's profile, I feel like there's untapped potential there that it can reach a certain level that I think with Awesome Richards, there's just limitations because of the type of athlete that I see and the type of player that I see. I don't think he would be a bad player. I just don't know that Richards has a ton that you can pull out of him. Well, let's go. I feel like there's a lot of untapped potential there that you could potentially work with.
Is this Peyton Hendershot's last camp?
Yeah, it is. It is. I think so.
Too many receivers.
They love
too many tight ends.
They love John Stevens.
Yeah, too many tight ends in that room, man.
This team loves John Stevens. And look, I mean, you got to remember, Hendershot had his problems. He had drops. He had some, a couple different issues his rookie year and then into training camp. He was not performing at a particularly high level. And so, I mean, I think Hendershot, that's a crowded room right now. They're not going to give up on Schoonmaker right away. No. We already know Ferguson's there. I think they like some of the other tight end depth, but John Stevens is somebody they really like. That's somebody that I think they think really highly of. All right, let's go to our first break here. I need to remind you guys that you're listening to the Love the Star podcast. The Love the Star is an Odyssey podcast. You can find it on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Brian, before we...
I got more questions for you.
I was going to say, before we go on to the schedule stuff, do you want to...
I got more questions. Yeah, we can talk about that schedule all day you want. I think they're going to go 9-8 myself. We'll see how that plays out. Too. All right. Trey Lance should get every rep over Cooper Rush in training camp. Yes or no?
Yeah, not even a question. You need to find out what you have in Trey Lance. Trey Lance has played
like every practice rep. Yep. Trey Lance should be the second. Should be like it's Dak Prescott and then it's Trey Lance.
Yeah, it's Prescott, Lance, and then all the game reps. If you're telling me Dak Prescott's not going to start in the preseason, then Trey Lance needs to take every single snap there. You have to get some sort of idea of what he is, whether because you plan on moving him or because you want to hold on to him and see what potential you have, what kind of lottery ticket you have. But that guy has got to get game speed reps. This is the thing, Brian. I'm going to throw something over to you. NFL Europe didn't work out. That was something that I know you were involved in.
I was a part of that, yeah.
You were involved in that, and I still love the concept of a developmental league. I think it would be incredibly valuable for guys like Trey Lance. And I had this discussion with some folks last week. The idea of a developmental league. It's hard to put one in the spring because you're talking about year-round football if you want them to end up contributing. And there's safety concerns there and everything else. Brian, could it function with the NFL wanting to own every day of the week? Could it function more like a minor league or a G League system where it's running concurrently with the NFL and you call guys up essentially from the minors if you want them and they're performing, and you play games on Fridays or whatever it is? And then you've got these small developmental, you basically have teams that can hold on to its practice squad and you play those games on Friday because if you decide you're going to call somebody up for the week, you just hold them out of the Friday game. That way they're not playing back to back and they can just roll right in, but they've gotten a full week of practice and you can even run a lot of the same concepts and have them practicing a lot of the same game plan that week in terms of, because it's just about development. You're not necessarily trying to win these games. So you have them practicing the same concepts. That way you have ready guys that if they step up and they perform, you can say, all right, let's call this guy up. We like what we've seen from him in this game action. And then you get them game speed. Is that even feasible to have a concurrently running essentially minor league system like the other leagues do?
Yeah, the football's too physical of a game. Remember the kid Dwayne Hawthorne that was with us, the cornerback?
Yep.
We put him in NFL Europe. He played 10 games, played at a high level, was at a all-pro level for NFL Europe. He came back to Dallas right after the season, came into training camp. He was dead. He was dead. He couldn't run. He was wore down. He played 10 games. I tell you what, I like your idea, Bobby. How about this? What if you had a league that was 7-on-7 football?
Yeah.
7-on-7, but you're working with quarterbacks, receivers, and defensive backs. So there's really nothing to get offensive linemen and defensive linemen ready.
Trench work wouldn't be there, yeah.
No trench work. You don't get trench work. But you have a deal where it's 7-on-7, no contact, those helmet things they wear in case they run into each other, the special helmet things. But that way your quarterback's throwing I guess you could say that's arena ball, right?
And you're playing the well, I mean, without the contact, and you're having, and look, you're playing against other teams. You're not just going to practice. You're getting the reps of other guys who are probably also similar. Like Trey Lance is not throwing against a lot of first round corners, but if there's a first or second round corner that needs development, that somebody's saying, hey, we're going to put you in, he's actually getting to work against some better competition. And I think you could sell that as like a 7-on-7, no contact, kind of high speed, fast paced type of game that you could, if the NFL's again looking to own certain days of the week and wants a bigger footprint, that's another way that I think you do it. And if you're running it along the same line as the NFL season, then it's the same schedule. So you just call guys up and say, all right, hey, you're doing a good job. We're going to bring you up.
Maybe on Wednesdays, maybe on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, we have, but then coaches will say, well, how are we going to practice? If these guys are playing arena ball, I should say arena ball. If these guys are playing 7-on-7, we need them for Wednesday, Thursday practice to run scout team. There has to be something to help. I guarantee, I would love to know, and maybe we could figure this out, Bobby. I would like to know what Trey Lance's work schedule was last season. I would love to know that. Maybe since we're out there at camp this week, that we can ask some people and they could tell us, like, post-practice, Trey Lance did this.
Yeah, what did a normal day look like?
Yeah, what did a normal day for Trey Lance? Was there a practice after practice for Trey Lance? That's
how much of it was potentially, I mean, was it mostly classroom work? Was it field work? Like, what is it that you are really looking to do? I do know that he's a guy, he's worked a lot with, before he even got traded to Dallas, he worked out in APEC over in Fort Worth, which was the Bobby Stroop facility that Patrick Mahomes trained at.
Yeah.
And so because of that, he also got linked up with the quarterback coach who was out there, Jeff Christensen. And Jeff Christensen has worked a lot with Trey Lance. That's actually how John Rice Plumlee from Central Florida, who was training out here and working with Jeff Christensen, that's how Trey Lance got linked up with him. And they were training the whole time, so that when they did the Big 12 Combine out here in Frisco, it was actually Trey Lance running the workout. So Trey Lance was calling the workout the way, just other quarterbacks coaches would typically have the script and run everything. And so Lance is a guy who, I know he's been putting in plenty of work in the offseason and getting in reps with other people, but it would be interesting to know what exactly does the NFL game week look like for him.
Yeah, I would. All right, Bobby, here's a question I got for you. This is Cowboy defensive related, okay?
Okay.
I'm at the end of the rope on Chauncey Golston, Nashawn Wright, Israel Mukuamu.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at the end of the rope. Are you at the end of the rope for those guys?
Yeah.
And could you throw Sam Williams in there and maybe Fehoko? I mean, I've got to see something. I'm especially at the end of the rope on Golston, Wright, and Mukuamu.
Yeah, like Mukuamu, I'll say this. Mukuamu is to me, that's a 6th round player who I think had some good upside. And so, I mean, I think the fact that he's hung around like this is sort of an accomplishment in and of itself as a 6th rounder who was like, a guy who played corner and then asked to play safety and then was kind of doing corner stuff at camp. So, I feel like, if he's not good enough, go ahead and move on. But I feel like they've held on to him because he's probably good enough and they just haven't had an opportunity to get him in there yet. Wright needs to contribute. Golston has contributed at times, but it's not been consistent enough or large enough of a contribution. Those guys absolutely have to. Sam Williams is getting close, especially because some of the off the field maturity concerns and things like that. I'm not at the end of my rope with Fehoko at all because that's 1 year. Yeah, and he was hurt for a lot of it.
Oh, yeah. I threw him in there as I need to know more about you kind of thing. I kind of look at him and Awesome Richards as the same kind of guy. I need to, I was hopeful that I would know a little bit more about you going into this season.
Yeah, I need to know something for sure. But I don't know that I would say he's like, for instance, I don't think his job is on the line. I do think that the other guys you could say their jobs are somewhat on the line. Probably not just because of the lack of depth. Probably not Sam Williams. I wouldn't guess his job is on the line, but his future is on the line. Like the ability for this team to say, hey, we're bought in. We like this kid. That is what's at stake for him right now. But probably in the immediate, Sam Williams is his reputation, the way this team thinks about him long term is going to be decided now. And so he may even be here for this year, but they may have made up their mind about him. And so whereas Wright and Golston, it's like, well, no, your jobs are somewhat on the line. You need to perform. You need to show a certain level of play in order to be here. Mukuamu, too. I just think that I think Mukuamu has been somewhat of a stash for them. That they like him, they like what he can do, and
he's got to play, huh? At some point,
he does. But I mean, also the opportunity's got to be there. You're talking about 3 safeties that have gotten a lot of run here and
Okay,
now.
I was going to ask you about this. My next question to you about these safeties. Marquise Bell, linebacker for all of 2023, is going to beat out Donovan Wilson for the starting safety spot in 2024.
I have a hard time seeing that. Maybe, but again, it's Bell was obviously.
Give me an answer. Don't ride the fence. Give me an answer.
I don't think he will. I don't think that he ultimately will. Now, I think that he's going to get. Marquise Bell will get work. He'll be somebody who's here contributing.
Man, you love you some Donovan Wilson, don't you?
I just think that when you look at. I think that when you're talking about toughness and some of the things that he'll be able to do for them that I think are unmatched on the roster. I don't think there's anybody in the secondary that plays as tough as Donovan Wilson.
Wanye Thomas?
Wanye Thomas is an interesting player because he's got nickel flexibility and can play some safety and can come up in the box. Wanye Thomas will probably get some work too. I don't want to make it sound like Bell is not. You got to remember, Marquise Bell, even though he was a...
Yeah, you're burying Bell. Don't tell everybody the truth out there. You're burying Bell.
Bell went to, Bell was a decent recruit coming out of high school. He seems like this kind of underdog story, but I mean, he went to Maryland and ultimately left the program. I think he was dismissed, actually. But he's somebody who came in, played well. Scott McCurley told us it on day 3 of the draft show, the Cowboys linebacker coach. He told us, he was like, Marquise Bell, more than happy to have him in my room. We'll have him back anytime because that guy fights. And he's a warrior and he's tough. And they love that about him. I just think that when you're talking about interchangeable, is Wilson much of that? Maybe not. But I do think that Wilson gives them a toughness and an edge and a physicality and a presence in the run game that I don't know how much they're getting that from anybody else in the safety room. But Wanye Thomas is somebody who absolutely, I think, could threaten that way because Wanye Thomas is incredibly versatile. Wanye Thomas, to me, is probably the most versatile of the group in the safeties.
Yeah, keep an eye on this Amani Johnson that they got from Nevada.
You were a fan of his.
I am a fan of his. I am a fan. So I would keep it. I might be hitting the pipe, as they say, but I tell you what, him and that Julius Wood are 2 good-looking kids that I saw at the rookie minicamp stuff. Those 2 safeties they're good-looking kids. I wouldn't be surprised in the second half of some of these preseason games, those 2 guys being on the field together.
Yeah, look, I don't think that's you hitting the pipe, Brian. I think that's just our Chill Boys ballsy take of the day is what it is.
Thank you.
So keep an eye out for...
I was hoping you would get the ballsy take of the day for Chill Boys.
All the talking I've done today, and it's you who gets it. So go to chillboys.com, enter promo code STAR for 15% off your order. You are listening to the Love the Star podcast. The Love the Star is an Odyssey podcast. You can find it on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Brian, you're done asking the questions now. Now it's time for our listeners to ask the questions because it's time for the Dean Julia Love of the Star mailbag where we turn things over to our dear sweet listener for some of...
I didn't want to talk about that schedule, Bobby. That's why I did what I did.
You're too depressed by it. Is that what it is? Before we get to that, give me one thing real quick. Your biggest takeaway from the schedule. Was there a thing of it that you went, oh, that's interesting?
Yeah, I think there was... and I'm pulling up the notes because on the G-Bag Nation, we went through as a show and did the win-loss kind of a thing. We had them as 5-1 in the NFC East, but we had them losing every game to the AFC North.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
that's this. We picked it this way. We went as a show, and we all talked about it. Everybody had a vote, but we had loss at Cleveland, win against the Saints, loss at home against Baltimore, win against the Giants there in New York, a loss at Pittsburgh on a Sunday night, a loss at Detroit against Detroit. That right there, you're looking at 2 losses already at home until you get to the bye. So we had it actually had them 2-4 going into the bye. Is what we had.
I think I'm trying to. I know I finished with 9-8.
Yeah,
and I believe I had them losing both games to Philly. I had them losing to San Francisco, Detroit. I may have had them losing to Pittsburgh actually on the road.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, to me that's the stretch of this where it's going to be. I think you can go back to October 6th, and you go October 6th through November 18th, and that of on the road against Pittsburgh, home against Detroit, bye week, on the road against San Francisco, on the road against Atlanta, home against Philly and Houston. That's where their season's going to be decided, I think.
Yeah, we had them a home record in 9 games at 5-4. So
it's going to be a tough schedule, no doubt about it. Bryan, let's get to some of these questions.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Love this. No, you're good. Love the star mailbag. First one, let's go with this question from Cesar Lucero. He says, if Tyler Guyton isn't ready to start the season at left tackle, would you consider moving Tyler Smith there and having BB at left guard and Hoffman? Okay, so you would not say you wouldn't say I'm just committing to Tyler Smith at left guard, and so then we'll have to get a Doga or somebody. We're talking about moving him.
You know what? But they won't do that, Bobby. We all know damn good and well they won't do that. They'll play a Doga out there, or somebody else will play at left tackle. They will not move. I don't think they'll move Tyler Smith. I really don't. I want to believe that. I'd love to see. To be honest with you, if Guyton struggles so badly that they're nervous about putting him out there, Tyler Smith at left tackle, Bass at left guard, and then turning around and putting BB at center. That's how I would play. That's exactly how I would play. Now I'm saying that without seeing BB play much center, but I think of the guys drafted, those offensive linemen, I think he's the guy that probably has not the bigger learning curve for the position. I think he'll be fine. No, I do worry a little bit about Guyton out there.
Yeah, Guyton, I think we've said this before. I think Guyton's going to be a really good left tackle at the upper level. I don't know how.
Maybe not right now.
I just don't know how quickly it's going to come together. There's got to be some patience here, and that's the only problem is that for the Cowboys, they probably feel like they don't have time for a lot of this. Yeah. But that's the guy they wanted. That's the guy they picked. He's somebody who I think is a really, really impressive prototype for the position. Yeah. Guyton gives you a lot that's really exciting about playing left tackle. It's just it might take some time for him to come together. Now, we thought it was going to take Tyler Smith a long time to come together, and he was an NFL caliber starting offensive lineman immediately. And so you're going to hope that some of that clicks into place for Guyton too, but I would not be surprised.
I had Guyton graded higher than Tyler Smith.
Yeah. I would not be surprised if – I'm not saying this is the likelihood. I think at this point the likelihood is Guyton starts at left tackle. I don't think it's an impossible notion to say Guyton's not starting on week 1. I don't think that's impossible because there's a lot of jobs on the line. And if you've got a guy on the offensive line who's not ready, offensive line a lot of times is a weakest link position. If one guy doesn't know what he's doing, that entire line is going to have problems.
Agreed.
And so because of that, I don't know that they're going to want to stake their jobs on somebody who's missing assignment. So if he has problems or there's a learning curve, I just wouldn't be surprised if they defer to a veteran at that point.
I agree.
Next question here from Caleb. He's asking, what should we expect during first round of OTAs? What are coaches' expectations of the player? So, Bryan, what are you typically looking for at an OTA practice? Is this about, the getting playbook stuff down, install, getting, in sync with timing and getting the playbook down? Is that what it's more about rather than individual performances or growth?
How these young kids fitting in with the veterans? Where are these coaches putting these, the starting offensive line? We see BB at center. We see Guyton at left tackle with Martin and Steele and the others. Sure, that's what you're looking for right there. You're looking for. I remember when they drafted Michael Parsons, and they threw him in the deep end of the pool. I expect that they're going to throw some of these kids in the deep end of the pool and see if they can swim. How much can they retain? How much can they on the field? Are they making mistakes? Are we having to run drills over because all of a sudden there's supposed to be a blitz pickup from Guyton and he misses it? He slides inside. How many times we're going to hear, "Hey, coach, can we see that again, please? Coach, can we see that again?" If you're hearing that a bunch, somebody's not picking this up. So to me, veterans, rookies, how much of the rookies really involved, and are they picking up everything? Are they taking stuff from the classroom to the field and not making mistakes?
I'm going to run through a bunch of the names in the class really quickly. And I just want you to tell me, based on your study, obviously we don't know all the specifics of how they are in the classroom and everything else, but based on what you see in terms of where they're at with their technique, how raw they appear, I'm just going to run through a name and you tell me if your best guess is that they will be ready or they're going to take some time to pick some things up.
Gotcha.
Guyton.
Time.
Okay. Next one, it would be Neeland.
Pick up. He'll pick it up. He'll pick it up.
So he won't need as much time. Okay. Cooper Beebe.
He'll pick it up.
Leah Fowl.
Time.
Kalen Carson.
Pick it up.
Ryan Flournoy.
Time.
Nathan Thomas.
Pick it up.
And then Justin Rogers.
Pick it up.
So a couple guys there who will need maybe a little bit of time.
I should say about Thomas. Let me go back on Thomas.
Thomas is going through a position change, it sounds like.
He is going through a little bit of a position change. I'm going to switch him back to time.
Okay.
And I'm going to say that Justin Rogers picks it up.
Yeah, you would hope. I mean, Justin Rogers has done a lot of the work at the college level that he's going to be asked to do here. So
big time program. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's part of the reason why they like.
But here I'm saying Neeland pick it up. I think Neeland's got power. I think he understands how to play the run. Where he's going to have to learn is the pass rush stuff.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to be able to do enough to help you while he learns how to be a pass rusher.
Absolutely. All right, let's do the last question here from Brandon Laurie. Brandon is asking, looking at the other teams in the division, what's your confidence level that the coaching staff those teams hired will close the gap on Dallas? For example, are you confident in Kellen Moore and Cliff Kingsbury getting the most out of the offenses in Philadelphia and Washington?
I think Kingsbury will. I think they're a coordinator. I feel like they got the right quarterback. They've got a lot of skill. They've got, their tight ends.
I'm terrified by the idea of Cliff Kingsbury has had 2 years to follow NFL trends and just draw up ideas. Yeah. I think he's going to break out a lot of stuff that the league struggles with early on.
I agree. I think the time that he spent working with Caleb Williams and those guys out there at USC, I think could really, really help him. So, yes, I worry. I think, to me, if I'm a Cowboy fan, and this is where I might be really, really wrong, as a Cowboy fan, I wanted them to draft Drake May, the Commanders. That's who I wanted them to draft.
And I was the reverse. I
know, and that's fine. But it'll either be right or wrong about this.
Oh yeah. No, just showing it's ice cream too, in some ways, and so which.
But I think that. Yeah, I worry. I think the Giants are coaching for their jobs right now.
Yes.
I think they're coaching for their jobs. They're very similar to the Cowboys. Commanders, I think, had a really good draft.
Commanders took a lot of your coaches, too.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think the Commanders just hired a really good cap guy from the Lions. The Commanders, I think, are building something that, if it clicks into place, that could start working pretty rapidly. I think that they've got something interesting there. All right, that does it for us here today on the Love the Star podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll have more content for you in the days and weeks ahead. OTA practices are coming up, and we'll have that all covered for you. Again, once again, check out chillboys.com, promo code STAR for 15% off. For Bryan Broaddus, I'm Bobby Belt. We will talk to you guys again later. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest updates. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.